Imagine the scene. It is a Saturday noon in Rome, May 2026. The Italian Open is in full swing, and the red clay of the Foro Italico is baking under the Mediterranean sun. If you are a casual tennis fan, your eyes are probably fixed on the main stadiums, waiting for the marquee matchups, the televised gladiatorial combat that defines this historic tournament. But if you were actually there on the grounds, you would have noticed something incredibly strange happening over on Court 7. Court 7 is an outer court. It is meant for warm-ups, for routine drills, for the quiet, rhythmic, unglamorous labor that happens before the cameras turn on. But on this particular Saturday, Court 7 was not quiet. It was besieged. Thousands of fans were crammed against the chain-link fences, packed shoulder to shoulder, standing on their toes, craning their necks just to get a glimpse of the red dirt. The noise was deafening. Cheers, chants, and names being screamed out as if a Grand Slam final was entering a fifth-set tiebreak. On one side of the net stood Liudmila Samsonova, the world number 21. She is a Russian powerhouse, a proven elite, a woman who hits the ball so hard it sounds like a gunshot echoing through the stadium. And across the net from her, the reason this crowd had gathered, the reason the air was vibrating with electricity, a 20-year-old left-hander, Alexandra Eala. A video of this exact practice session has just gone viral. Millions of views, endless comments, global sports networks picking it up. It is being shared, retweeted, and dissected by people who do not even follow tennis. But here is the open loop that nobody is talking about. Why? Why are thousands of people treating a routine, non-scoring, Tuesday afternoon-style practice session like the climax of a movie? Why is an established world number 21, like Samsonova, suddenly playing the role of a supporting actor on a side court? And what does it mean when a 20-year-old athlete commands a level of fanaticism that makes a traditional, quiet, polite establishment of professional tennis incredibly uncomfortable? We are not just looking at a viral video of a crowded tennis court. If that is all you see, you are completely missing the biggest sports story of this decade. What you are looking at is a tectonic shift. You are watching the violent, beautiful collision of a deeply traditional, Eurocentric sport with the unstoppable force of a new global demographic. You are watching the coronation of a cultural icon, and you are watching a psychological masterstroke play out in real time. Because Alexandra Eala was not just hitting balls on Court 7 for the fun of it. She was preparing for war. The very next day, she was scheduled to face world number 2, Elena Rybakina. Today, we are going to tear apart this viral moment. We are going to trace exactly how a young girl from Quezon City fought her way to world number 42 by May of 2026, defying every statistical odd stacked against her. We are going to analyze the hidden, ruthless strategy behind choosing Samsonova for this specific practice session. We're going to look at the terrifying pressure of carrying 115 million people on your shoulders every single time you toss a tennis ball into the air. And finally, we are going to ask the darkest, most critical question of all. Is this fanatical, obsessive level of support actually going to propel Alexandra Eala to a Grand Slam title? Or is it the exact thing that will inevitably crush her? Welcome to the deep dive. To understand the gravity of Court 7, we first have to understand the contextual backstory. How exactly did we get here? Let's rewind the clock. Professional tennis is arguably the most geographically and economically gatekept sport on the planet. For decades, the pipeline to the Women's Tennis Association Top 50 has been dominated by Eastern Europe, the United States, and Western Europe. The infrastructure required to produce a world-class tennis player, the elite coaching, the specialized clay and grass courts, the exorbitant travel costs for junior tournaments, creates an almost impenetrable barrier for developing nations. Historically, Southeast Asia has been a blank spot on the global tennis map. The Philippines, a nation that breeds basketball and reveres boxing legends like Manny Pacquiao, has never had a singular, transcending, homegrown tennis superstar to rally behind on the global singles stage. Until her. Let us look at the sheer, undeniable mathematics of Alexandra Eala's rise. In 2021, she was ranked outside the top 500. By the end of 2024, she had ground her way to number 158. The ITF circuits are a grueling, unforgiving purgatory. You're playing in small towns, fighting for marginal points, constantly battling exhaustion, financial strain, and the psychological weight of knowing that one bad injury can end your career before it even begins. But then came 2025, the breakout. She cracked the top 50, finishing the year at number 50 in the world. And now, as we sit here in May 2026, she is officially ranked world number 42. Just days ago, she dominated a 12-time champion, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, in straight sets in Madrid. This is not a fluke. This is a sustained, calculated, and violent assault on the WTA rankings. She relocated to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca at the age of 13. Think about the psychological toll of that. Leaving your family, your culture, your entire world behind to live in a highly sterilized, hyper-competitive athletic laboratory in Spain. She was forged in the same philosophical fires as Nadal himself: relentless baseline aggression, an ironclad mindset, and a refusal to concede a single point without extracting a physical toll from her opponent. But transitioning from a junior U.S. Open champion to a top 50 professional is a graveyard of broken dreams. The junior tour is about talent. The professional tour is about survival. The women in the top 50 do not care about your junior trophies. They hit harder, they think faster, and they possess a level of cynical, veteran grit that simply breaks young players. Yet, Eala didn't break. She adapted, and that brings us right back to Court 7 at the Foro Italico. Let's analyze the why factor. Why was Liudmila Samsonova on the other side of that net? In professional tennis, practice partners at major tournaments are never chosen by accident. They are selected with surgical precision. Eala was scheduled to face Elena Rybakina in the round of 32. Rybakina, the world number 2, is a terrifying opponent. She stands at 6 feet tall. She possesses one of the most lethal, unreadable serves in the history of the women's game. She plays first-strike tennis, hitting flat, heavy balls that rob her opponents of time and oxygen. Playing Rybakina on clay is like trying to defuse a bomb while someone is throwing rocks at your head. You cannot simulate Rybakina by hitting with a local club pro or a defensive baseline grinder. You need pace. You need overwhelming, oppressive power. Enter Liudmila Samsonova. Samsonova, currently ranked 21st in the world, is cut from the exact same cloth. She is tall, she serves massive, and she hits an incredibly flat, penetrating ball. By arranging a practice session with Samsonova, Eala's coaching team, led by Joan Bosch, was essentially creating a danger room simulation. They were acclimatizing Eala's nervous system to the sheer speed and weight of the ball she was going to face the next day. They worked on returns, blocking back heavy serves, digging out low volleys, and try to find the tiny geographical windows on the court where a lefty like Eala can exploit a tall, powerful right-hander. This practice session was a strategic blueprint being drawn in the dirt. It proved that Eala is not just happy to be at the Italian Open. She is not resting on the laurels of being world number 42. She and her team are actively, ruthlessly plotting the downfall of the world number 2. The phenomenon of the away-home crowd. But strategy alone does not explain the thousands of fans crushing against a chain-link fence. To understand that, we have to look at the social and cultural phenomenon that Eala has become. The Filipino diaspora is one of the largest and most widespread in the world. There is a massive Filipino community in Italy, particularly in Rome. For years, these overseas workers and immigrants have supported their families back home, often working in grueling conditions, deeply disconnected from their homeland. When Alexandra Eala stepped onto Court 7, she was not just a tennis player to them. She was a piece of home. She was a living, breathing validation of Filipino excellence on a world stage that has historically ignored them. The crowd was enthusiastic, loud, and deeply invested. They were shouting her name, completely ignoring the traditional etiquette of tennis practice, which usually demands polite golf clap silence. But here is the fascinating micro deep dive. It wasn't just Filipinos. Reports from the ground stated that local Italians were crowding the court, pointing and recognizing her as the Filipina Eala. This is the tipping point of true global superstardom. When a local European crowd at a historic European tournament begins to idolize an Asian player simply because of her aura, her grit, and the sheer electricity she brings to a venue, you know you are witnessing the birth of a transcendent icon. Think about the psychological asymmetry happening on that court. Liudmila Samsonova has been in the top 30 for years. She has won massive titles. She is used to being the main character. Yet, in this practice session, she was essentially a guest star in Eala's universe. Samsonova handled it with absolute grace, practicing hard, and even staying to take selfies with the fans afterward. But the dynamic was undeniable. The gravity of the court was pulling entirely toward the 20-year-old. However, as investigative journalists, we cannot simply buy into the hype without presenting the counter-argument. We must play the devil's advocate to truly understand the stakes. Is this level of viral fame and fanatical devotion actually a good thing for Alexandra Eala right now? Let us look at the harsh reality of the WTA Tour. The media landscape is littered with the burnout stories of young prodigies who were handed the keys to the kingdom before they were ready to drive. Think of the crushing expectations placed on Emma Raducanu after her miraculous U.S. Open win, or the immense, suffocating pressure that Naomi Osaka bravely spoke out against. Eala is currently world number 42. That is an incredible achievement, but she is not in the top 10 yet. She has not won a Grand Slam singles title. When a practice session becomes a stadium event, when every single movement you make is recorded by thousands of smartphones, when every victory is treated like a national holiday and every defeat is mourned as a national tragedy, when does the athlete actually get to breathe? The danger of this viral phenomenon is that it blurs the line between process and performance. Practice is supposed to be the place where you make mistakes. It is a place where you try new grips, where you miss shots, where you figure out why your backhand is breaking down. If you are terrified of missing a practice shot because 3,000 people will groan and a video will immediately be uploaded to YouTube, you stop practicing to improve. You start practicing to perform. And that is the death of athletic development. Furthermore, let us look at the match she was actually preparing for. Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, all the crowd support in the world, all the viral views, all the nationalist pride, cannot hit a topspin forehand for you when you are down break point in the third set. Rybakina does not care how many fans Eala has. Rybakina is a cold, calculated machine on the court. There's a very real argument to be made that this massive spectacle, this overwhelming Eala mania, could act as a psychological anchor. It creates an environment where Eala feels she has to win, not for herself, but to justify the thousands of people who waited in the sun just to watch her stretch. That is an unfair burden to place on a 20-year-old. We have to ask, is the Filipino fan base giving her wings, or are they unknowingly strapping an anvil to her back? Only a generational talent with an exceptionally fortified mind can compartmentalize that level of noise. The fact that Eala, so far, has handled it with grace, signing tennis balls for kids and remaining focused on the tactical drills with Samsonova, speaks volumes about the mental conditioning she received at the Nadal Academy. But the pressure cooker is only getting hotter. As we pull back from the microscopic analysis of Court 7, we have to look at the macro-level trajectory. We have to look at the horizon. What happens 5 years from now because of moments exactly like this? Fast forward to the year 2031. Alexandra Eala will be 25 years old. She will be entering the absolute physical and tactical prime of her career. If this current trajectory holds, if she maintains her steady climb, refines her serve, and hardens her baseline defense, she will not just be a top 10 player. She will be the commercial and cultural epicenter of the Women's Tennis Association. For decades, the WTA and the ADP have desperately tried to crack the Asian market. They achieved massive success with Li Na in China and incredible global resonance with Naomi Osaka representing Japan. But Southeast Asia, a region with over 600 million people and a rapidly growing middle class, has remained a largely untapped frontier. Alexandra Eala is the key to that frontier. Because of the viral phenomenon we witnessed in Rome, the boardrooms in the WTA headquarters are undoubtedly having urgent conversations. 5 years from now, we will likely see a massive geographical pivot in how tennis is marketed and scheduled. We will see an influx of high-tier WTA tournaments moving towards Southeast Asia. The demand for a WTA 500 or even a WTA 1000 event in Manila will become deafening. Broadcasters will shift their primetime slots. But the most profound change will not be measured in broadcast rights or tournament schedules. It will be measured in the grassroots movement. Right now, in Quezon City, in Cebu, in Mindanao, there are 6, 7, and 8-year-old girls watching that viral video. In a country where basketball hoops are nailed to every telephone pole, we are going to see a generation of kids begging their parents for tennis rackets. We are going to see public courts refurbished. We are going to see a surge in athletic investment, not just in the Philippines, but across neighboring nations like Indonesia and Thailand, inspired by the Eala effect. She is proving that you do not have to be born in Florida or Eastern Europe to dominate this sport. You can start in Southeast Asia, endure the grind, and force the European establishment to recognize your brilliance on their own clay. Which brings us to our final thought. Greatness in sports is often defined by statistics. We look at win-loss records. We look at ranking points. We count the silver trophies sitting in a glass cabinet. And by those metrics, Alexandra Eala at world number 42 is an incredible, rising star. But true sporting immortality, the kind of legacy that changes a culture, is not just about the math. It is about the ability to command the world's attention simply by existing in a space. It is about the fact that a 20-year-old woman can walk onto a secondary practice court in Rome, carrying a racket bag and towel, and instantly transform a quiet afternoon into a roaring, historical spectacle. Elena Rybakina may have been the world number 2 waiting in the wings. Liudmila Samsonova may have been the world number 21 hitting the balls. But on that Saturday afternoon at the Foro Italico, the most powerful force in professional tennis was not a ranking. It was the undeniable, earth-shaking arrival of Alexandra Eala. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the stories that are quietly reshaping the global sports landscape, if you want the deep analysis that goes far beyond the viral headlines, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Do you think the immense pressure of the Filipino fan base will push Eala to a grand slam, or will it ultimately be her greatest obstacle? We read every single one. Thank you for diving deep with us today. We will see you in the next one.